Hey, I'm Jennifer, 25, and living in this tiny town where everyone knows your business before you do. I'm an artist, or at least trying to be one. Most days, I'm juggling my part-time job at the local cafe and my real passion, painting. Life's simple here, or so I thought. My boyfriend, Mike, is the real deal, supportive, kind, and he even likes my odd abstract art. Then there's my mom, Sandra. She has strong opinions about how I should live my life. Everything changed the day I found out I was pregnant. I'd been feeling off, so I took a test, and when those two lines showed up, my heart nearly stopped. Mike, I need to tell you something, I said, voice shaking. He looked at me, concerned, and I handed him the test. His eyes went wide before a huge grin spread across his face. Then, out of nowhere, he dropped to one knee and pulled out a ring. Jennifer, I've been waiting for the right moment. I guess life just gave us one. Will you marry me? I was laughing and crying at the same time. Yes, you big goof. Telling my mom was another story. At Sunday dinner, I just blurted it out. Mom, I'm pregnant. She froze, fork halfway to her mouth. You're what? Pregnant. Mike and I are getting married. She set her fork down slowly. Jennifer, honey, are you sure about this? You're so young. There are options. We're keeping the baby, Mom. End of discussion. From that moment on, it was like living with a ticking time bomb. She started showing up unannounced, rearranging my apartment, buying baby items I hadn't asked for. Mom, I can handle this, I'd say, but she'd just smile, saying, Oh, sweetie, you don't know the first thing about raising a baby. As weeks went by, she got more intense, calling at all hours, insisting on attending every doctor's appointment. One night, I overheard her on the phone, whispering, Yes, everything's going according to plan. Jennifer doesn't suspect a thing. A chill ran down my spine. I tried to shake it off, focusing on the excitement of becoming a mom. But I couldn't ignore the growing sense that something was wrong. Mike noticed it too. Your mom's been acting strange lately, he said one night as we cuddled on the couch. I wanted to believe she was just excited to be a grandma. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. Then, one Tuesday, the contractions started. Mike was away on a work trip and I was alone panicking. I called my mom. I think the baby's coming, I gasped. She was there in record time, practically shoving me into her car. We don't have time to call Mike. I'll handle everything, she said. At the hospital, the world became a blur of pain and fear. Where's Mike? I panted. Focus on pushing, honey. I'm here, she replied. After what felt like hours, I finally heard a tiny cry, my baby girl. But before I could hold her, everything went black. I woke up groggy, with Mom sitting beside my bed, her eyes red-rimmed. Jennifer, honey, there were complications. My heart clenched. Where's my baby? Her voice cracked. I'm so sorry, sweetie. She didn't make it. My world shattered. I screamed, cried, and begged for it to be a lie. But Mom just held me, whispering apologies. Mike rushed back as soon as he heard. We grieved together, broken. I never even got to hold her, I whispered. As the days blurred, a fog of grief and pain settled over me. But slowly, things started to feel off. Mom, did you take any pictures of her? I asked one day. She hesitated. Oh, honey, I was too distraught. It didn't cross my mind. But hadn't she said before that she had? Mike noticed it too. Jennifer, something's not adding up, he said, looking concerned. The hospital says they have no record of a death certificate. A spark of hope flickered in my chest, tiny but persistent. Then one night, I overheard Mom on the phone again. Everything's fine. She doesn't suspect a thing. The baby's healthy as can be. Don't worry, I've got it all under control. My blood ran cold. Mike, I whispered that night, I think my mom's hiding something about the baby. He squeezed my hand. We'll figure this out, Jennifer, I promise. The grief was slowly being replaced by a burning anger. If my baby was out there, I was going to find her, no matter what. One day, while Mom was out at her weekly book club, I snuck into her house, my heart pounding. I searched each room, the scent of her lavender candles thick in the air. In a spare closet, I found a box tucked behind old coats. My hands shook as I pulled it out. Inside were baby clothes still with tags, soft toys I'd never seen, and a birth certificate. My breath caught as I read the name. Lily Thompson, my mother's last name. What are you doing? I whirled around, nearly dropping the certificate. Mom stood in the doorway, face pale, eyes wide with shock. And was that fear? Mom, what is this? Who's Lily? My voice cracked. Jennifer, honey, you're not well. You're imagining things. She took a step toward me, hands outstretched as if she were calming a wild animal. Jennifer, honey, she murmured, voice soothing. You need help. The grief, it's making you delusional. Let me call Dr. Parker. Don't lie to me. I clutched the birth certificate tighter, my knuckles white. Is my baby alive? Tell me the truth. In a sudden, desperate move, she lunged forward, trying to snatch the certificate from my hands. I yanked it away, stumbling backward. Jennifer, please. Let's talk about this. You're not well. Ignoring her, I bolted down the stairs, my mind reeling. The walls seemed to close in as I scrambled outside, barely holding myself together. I drove home in a haze, tears blurring my vision. When I finally walked in, Mike was waiting, concern etched across his face. I told him everything. He listened, his expression growing darker as I showed him the birth certificate, my hands still shaking. We need proof, solid proof, he said, pulling me into his arms. I know a private investigator. He's discreet, thorough. We'll get to the bottom of this. The next few weeks were torture, filled with anxious waiting and attempts to act normal around Mom. Every time my phone rang, my heart leaped, hoping it was news from the PI. To cope, I threw myself into painting, pouring out the storm inside onto dark, swirling canvases. Then finally, the PI called. I put him on speaker and Mike and I held our breath. We found her, he said, his voice crackling through the line. Your mother's been raising your daughter in Millbrook, the next town over. She's enrolled in daycare there, under the name Lily Thompson. My world tilted. My baby was alive. My mother had stolen her. The room spun as I clutched the edge of the table, steadying myself. Mike wrapped his arms around me as I broke down, his own eyes glistening with tears. How could she do this? My own mother. We'll get her back, Mike promised fiercely, holding me close. We'll make this right, Jennifer. I swear it. We met with a lawyer the next day, gathering every piece of evidence we had. Each day became a struggle to keep calm, not to confront Mom, not to shout the truth in her face when she called to check in. The irony of her concerned act twisted my stomach. Then, one night, leaving the art studio late, I spotted her in the parking lot. She was on the phone, pacing by her car, oblivious to me hiding in the shadows. The adoption papers are almost ready, she whispered. Soon, Lily will be legally mine. No one will be able to take her away. Rage boiled inside me, so fierce it was blinding. I ducked behind a car and recorded her conversation on my phone. More evidence. Later that night, Mike and I sat down with our lawyer and the PI, crafting a plan to confront her, record her confession, and bring Lily home. The authorities would be ready to intervene. On the day of the sting, my heart hammered as Mike and I drove to Mom's secret apartment, a detective waiting nearby. Mike reached over and squeezed my hand. Remember the plan. Get her to confess. Don't lie on that we're recording. I nodded, steeling myself. Today this would end. One way or another, I was getting my daughter back. The weight of my mother's betrayal pressed down on me, suffocating. She'd stolen my child, watched me grieve, lied to my face for months. But under the fury and pain was a fierce hope. I was going to bring my daughter home. As we knocked on her door, I braced myself. When she opened it and saw us, her face fell. Jennifer, what are you doing here? We know, Mom, I said, my voice cold. About Lily, about everything. Her eyes darted around. I don't know what you're talking about. Cut the crap, Mike snapped. We know you faked the baby's death. Mom's expression crumbled, but her eyes flashed with defiance. I did it for you, Jennifer. You weren't ready to be a mother. So you stole my child? My voice shook with barely controlled rage. I protected her. I gave her a better life than you ever could. By lying, by breaking my heart. Mom's voice grew desperate, attempting to justify herself. A small cry came from the room, and my heart stopped. Lily, I pushed past Mom, following the sound. There she was, my baby girl, standing in a playpen, her big eyes wide with curiosity. Tears blurred my vision as I scooped her up, holding her close. She didn't know me, not really, but she didn't cry. Somehow she knew. Jennifer, please, Mom said, her voice desperate. I was only thinking of Lily. I turned to her, holding my daughter tightly. No, you were thinking of yourself. This is over, Mom. For good. The police arrived, and as they led her away, pleading and crying, I felt nothing but relief. The months that followed were a whirlwind of court hearings and adapting to life with Lily. Mom faced charges of kidnapping and fraud, and when I testified, my voice was strong as I recounted her betrayal. Slowly, Lily grew to trust us, her first mama, to me a beautiful surprise that left me in tears. 2 years later, our lives had transformed completely. Mike, Lily, and I had become a real family. Mom was serving time, shunned by everyone who once knew her. My art took off, fueled by my journey. I painted stories of loss, hope, and redemption, and people connected with the raw emotions that filled my work. One sunny afternoon, I watched Lily play in our backyard, her laughter echoing in the warm air. Mike came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. "Penny, for your thoughts." I smiled, resting my head against him, just thinking about how close we came to losing all this. But we didn't, he reminded me, squeezing my hand. We fought, and we won. Lily came running over, curls bouncing, holding up a small fistful of dandelions. "Mama, Papa, look." As I knelt to admire her bouquet, a deep peace settled over me. We'd been through so much, but we had come out stronger. I'd learned to trust myself, to fight for what mattered. Mom's betrayal would always leave a scar, but looking at my beautiful daughter, I knew every painful moment had been worth it. We were whole, we were together, and nothing could ever tear us apart again.